and it's so good. My wife tried to limit me. She said, you have to stop drinking coffee by lunch. Because I'd come home and I'm just a chatterbox, and she's like, how much coffee did you have?
Well, joining us today is MarkWatson, the recently retired Executive Vice President and COO for the BUNN Corporation. Welcome to the table. We are really excited to have you today.
I've been looking forward to this ever since you called. So
well, thank you. You are kind. I love your book. I know Brad and I were by your office. It's probably been a year and a half ago, I'm guessing, and you gave us a copy. And it is.
You've had to clean up a few things since then.
Well, actually, the longest sales call we've ever been on.
Yeah,
I said we were sitting. I was like an hour and 20 minutes.
I can keep it going. If I can't give you anything, I'm going to talk you to death.
Well, we loved it.
It was awesome.
Great to spend some time with you and Scott that day. So, one of the things we've learned with doing this crazy podcast is people love to hear other people's stories, especially when they're inspiring and motivational and encouraging. And yours is certainly all of those things. Yeah. So would you just give us a little bit about, obviously you spent, I think it was the last 12 years of your career at BUNN, but talk a little bit about your career and your life story.
Yeah, it's been a fun almost 40 years that I've been in manufacturing operations. I started out, I've heard some of your other podcasts, so it's a very similar story to some of the other guys that they tell. But I started out in a little small factory in Northeast Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And the funny story about that, my life is really full of funny stories. I don't know why. Maybe they follow me. But I was going to interview at this factory. Uh-huh. And we rarely get snow in Northeast Arkansas, but we do get a few ice storms. Yep. The day I was supposed to interview for this job, it came an ice storm. And the plant manager called me and he says, don't come in. He goes, you know what? He goes, we live pretty close by each other. Why don't you just come by the house? Mm-hmm. And so I came by his house and he interviewed me and I took the job. I'd never seen this factory before.
I love it. I used to hunt ducks down in Corning, Arkansas. We used to go to Paragould to eat. They had a little bar restaurant, had the best smoked pork steaks I've ever had. Do you remember the name of that place?
Was it Couches, maybe, or
strawberries? Is there
strawberries? That's the name of the seasoning they use.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, maybe
I know the one you're talking about.
Yes, it's outstanding. Anyways,
yes, it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, I take the job. Yeah. And I show up the next day, and this place was a dump.
Oh no!
And I'm thinking, what have I done? I mean, I quit a good paying job to take.
Yeah, right.
And I was not married at the time. And so after working that, and I asked the guy when I interviewed, I said, you guys work a lot of overtime? He goes, we'll work a Saturday every now and then. Well, to make a long story short, after I took that job, I had 56 days before I got a day off, including Sunday.
Gosh. Wow.
And but anyway, I went home that afternoon. I drove by my mom's house. She goes, how's the new job? And I can tell you one thing. I won't be there a year from now.
Yeah, is that right? What did you guys make?
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
We made automotive parts.
Okay.
Automotive air conditioning parts. But 29 years later, I left that job.
Oh, my God.
You were there 29
years, not the one location. But and we ended up building a new plant there, but I relocated about 8 times.
Wow,
is that company?
Right? That's a cool story. Yeah,
all in that region or all over the country.
I worked there for about 8 years, and then I transferred temporarily to our plant in Germany, Queckborn, Germany. Uh-huh. We bought a facility there, and it shut down. They didn't like the new owners, so to speak. And so I had to go there and get that plant running, and that took me about 8 months that I lived there commuting, if you will. I would commute back and forth every now and then come home. And from there, I moved to Monterrey, Mexico, and started 2 plants there. And then I moved back to Arkansas. I lived in Monterrey about a little over 2 years, and I moved back to Northeast Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Ran the plant that I started at for about 8 years. Transferred from there back to our corporate office, our division office in Memphis, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And I worked there until I came to BUNN.
Gotcha. So those two companies.
Yes.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great run.
Did the BUNN family find you, or how did
they
that
found
come
me?
to fruition?
That was an interesting story in itself. But so they're a very private company. We're a very private company, and for good reason. So one day I'm driving. I had plants all over the South and then all over Mexico, and I was the global operations manager, so I travel a lot. But I happened to be in my car one day, and the phone rang, and this guy said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about leaving Parker and coming to work for a Midwestern company." He made it sound real good. I said, "Well, what's the name of the company?" He goes, "Well, I can't tell you that." And I go, "Well, conversation over, quick, you know."
Right.
And I hung up. And this went on for almost a year.
Oh, really? Wow.
And the guy would never tell me the name of the. He was a headhunter, but it was retained search. He told me he was hired by BUNN to find me, and finally I said, "Guy, you know, dude, I'm not gonna go to work for anybody unless I know where it's at." So finally, the last time he called me, I was actually in my office in Memphis, and he said, "Go to your break room. Do you have a break room there?" I said, "Oh yeah, we have a big break room."
Oh yeah.
He said, "Look at the coffee machine. What does it say on the side of it?" And I said, "BUNN." He goes, "That's us."
Okay.
I go, "You're kidding." And so anyway, I still wasn't totally. We went through it took about 18 months before I agreed to. I wasn't looking for a job.
Right,
I liked what I was doing, and but the more he described it to me, he said, "We're wanting to go more global. We would like to get a presence in China," and that was right down my alley. I'd been working internationally for several years, and so I thought, I kind of get to do my own thing, because I would have done some things different if Parker I had control, and so this was my chance to put my fingerprint on a place.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so anyway, after about 18 months, I took the job.
That's
Gotcha.
great.
And that would have been how long ago?
That was 2000. I started in July 1, 2011.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, you've been there a while.
Yeah.
Well, from the successes of the BUNN Corporation, you must have done it pretty well.
Well, High trained me well.
Yeah, of course.
But yes, it was. There's a great team over there. I tell people it's the largest small company you'll work for. It's the teammates over there. It seems like everybody you go to is like an expert in their field, and so they're just good people. And we joke on a good side. It's like the firm. Once you get in, nobody leaves.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we don't leave.
Yeah, even though you're retired,
Even though I'm
you're
retired,
still working there.
I still do anything they want me to do.
I love it.
Yeah.
What's your formal education? Is it because you've been in manufacturing your entire career?
Well, I got my undergrad. I graduated summa cum laude. You know what that is, right?
That's good. I didn't quite get there.
Well, as most people know, it was a 6-year plan. I was on 4 years and 2 summer schools, but I did get out in 4 years. But I got my undergrad in management, and which that means you can pretty much do nothing. And so I didn't know what to do, but I loved putting things together and whatever, and so I got an opportunity to go to a factory, but later on I kind of got in my job and started maturing a little bit. I was single. I stayed single for a while, even after I got my first job, and so I was 40 before I went back to school to get my master's.
Okay.
And I was older than a couple of my teachers.
Oh wow.
And that was kind of humiliating.
But no
they would ask you for career advice. You're like,
but no engineering background?
No, a lot of people think I do because I spent a lot of time as part of my career as a quality manager. So I did get a lot of in-depth, on-the-job training. So I get accused of in BUNN a lot of times. They say, "Well, you engineers," and I'm like, "I just take it,
right,
whatever."
Yeah.
But no, I don't have a formal degree in engineering. But done
you
a lot
probably
of work.
teach it.
Probably did a lot.
Yeah. How's the culture at BUNN?
Oh, it's family. That's the difference between there and probably anywhere else that I'd worked. Parker, we were a family, but we were so huge. When I left Parker, we had 40,000 employees.
Wow.
Man.
So you'd see somebody at the airport with a Parker shirt on, we'd introduce ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And But BUNN is family, and you know, families, we can fight sometimes, but we take, at the end of the day, it's okay if we fight, but don't you fight with us.
Yeah, right.
That makes sense.
Because we're going to protect
That's right.
ourselves. And
I like it.
So it was, it's really good. And most people stay there very long, even all the way to, from the highest to the lowest employee there. If you ask them, they'll say family.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What you mentioned at the time when you started going more international, as far as various locations around the world, where would we find?
I don't know there's any place you wouldn't find our product, because we either have distribution or reps in those areas. I mean, even I've been places I'm like, oh my goodness. I was in Costa Rica on vacation a few years ago, and we go to a little roadside restaurant, and they drawing coffee off of their bun, and I had to go back and find who our reps were for that area, right?
Yeah.
But we primarily manufacture in North America. Most of it's in Springfield and Iowa. Mm-hmm. We have a facility in Canada, and we do manufacture things for the Far East, China. We do manufacture some stuff on site.
Okay.
But not much. We mainly send kits, and then they put it together.
Gotcha.
It's all about, the import-export charges and stuff like that.
Sure. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, I know BUNN does a lot more than coffee machines. A lot of people only think coffee. Yeah. Would you say more about that?
Yeah.
Convenience stores, I think, everything.
Well, if you go into any convenience store, you'll find a wide variety. Now, one of the things probably that the workers know more that build the stuff is we make these slushy machines.
Yeah.
And we always tell people when you hire in, you're going to hire in at 180 and leave at 210. Because those slush machines are just, they're
you gotta try them
over and over. Try them over. We've got everything from espresso slushies to, we buy the product, but we make the slushy machine. We also make probably one of the hottest items we have going over there, and I say we, I'm retired, so I'll say, maybe I should say they. But is the bean to cup machine. So now we've brought that idea of a fresh cup. You just draw it off, and it makes it just instantly in front of you. Yeah. And it's so good. I mean, my wife tried to limit me. She said, you have to stop drinking coffee by lunch. Because I come home and I'm just a chatterbox, and she's like, how much coffee did you have? But these bean to cup machines are so good. So we run different, some of our customers, we run some of their coffee through there to test it. Mm-hmm. And I love being the taste tester. Yeah. And, but they're so good. So they're going in a lot of the convenience stores now. You don't have to have the batch brew. And then they have a new thing that's coming out that they're testing with some of the bigger chains right now. It's called bean to batch. And so while to you, I always tell everybody it's a Jedi mind trick. You're pulling off one cup, but it's secretly making a few little more than just one cup. It's got intelligence, it's got AI in it. So it knows when the high output times are, and it'll brew 2 or 3 cups. And it's so fresh.
Well, that's interesting.
It is so fresh.
Yeah, that's
and
pretty
they're
amazing.
really good.
That's great.
So anyway, I got off on the coffee again, but we make a lot of coffee products. But we make the slushy products. We do hot chocolate, the powdered hot chocolate. Another popular item in the summertime are the nitron drinks.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to get a buzz.
Yeah.
Now, you get a caffeine buzz off of one of those. You can speak Swahili after about 2.
I've never had one of those, but I see them.
I haven't either.
I'm going to try now. You've got to try it.
Good,
I had to really get off of that. It gave me heart palpitations. But it's you can speak Swahili after a couple of glasses of that.
I love it.
And there you can mix, a lot of, you can nitrogenate really virtually anything. Mm-hmm. It could be sports drinks, but you can do coffee, cold coffee. Mm-hmm. So I think the 2 newest things are probably the bean to cup, bean to batch, and then the nitrogenated drinks.
Gotcha.
They're really hot items right now.
Yeah.
And they all build right here in Springfield, Illinois.
Which is awesome.
Pretty cool.
A lot of people don't know it or don't think about it. It's right here in our backyard.
Yeah, we did that tour over there. I could not believe how many people were back there putting all those machines together.
And then we do have the 2 facilities in Whitehall.
Yes.
So not far from here.
I've forgotten about that. Yeah.
And what do you make over there?
We make the coffee filters.
Okay.
And we also make any of the batch brewing. You know, we do some. It's mainly what I'd call our high volume batch brewing tea brewers.
Gotcha.
We do a lot of tea brewers, especially in the spring, summertime. So they stay really busy. We didn't buy, but we acquired the old Alco building. You remember Alco? Those stores, Alco. They're kind of like a Dollar General or something like that.
Okay. Yep.
Got the Alco building, so they're just across the street from one another.
Okay.
It's really kind of neat.
Yeah.
You can walk from one facility to the other.
Yeah. Good.
Awesome.
Why the book? What inspired you to write the book?
I'm going to blame a lot on my wife.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I speak a lot. I always have to university kids. They, especially on career days, and I started doing a lot where I got my master's at Arkansas State University there. So I speak to their graduate school, and they want to know about my career, and I'd tell them, and I caught myself telling the same stories, right? And then I started working, doing a little bit at University of Memphis at the Fogelman Business School. And then when I came here, we had Sangamo CEO, we had different things that we did here. And I felt like I was living my life on repeat. I'm telling the same stories, just over and over. And several people said, you ought to write this down. And I'm like, I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that. And so one day, I'm sitting in my office over on Stevenson. This is before we built the facility out on Ash Grove. And I got a call, and they had a speaker that didn't show up for an engineering group. And they said, hey, could you come talk to the engineering group? And one of my friends of mine, he's a pastor, he used to always tell me to write this down in the book. And I'm literally walking across campus like, what were those chapter titles you gave me? Because I got to come up with a speech really quick. Now. And he did. He texted me like 4 titles. I thought, okay, I think I can come up with something. And so that was literally the day that I thought maybe I need to start writing some. And that was probably about 2013, or 12 or 13. And it was so bad, I didn't even want to read it.
I don't believe that. It was really well done.
Yeah.
And you talk about a great storyteller.
Yeah.
Well, so, my life history goes, so in 2015, I was diagnosed with a terminal illness. And I had written about 6 chapters at that point. And they gave me, in 2015, they gave me like 9 months to live. And I thought, I've got to pick up the pace here if I'm going to get this book done. and so I got this disease called amyloidosis. The long name of it is called HATTR. It's hereditary. And I don't know what the other 4 letters stand for, but it's bad.
It's not good.
It's not good.
Not good.
That's what I asked my doctor. He said, well, you've either got amyloidosis, ALS, or MS. And I knew nothing about any of those, really. I said,
how did you know you had something that
wasn't
right?
I started, I was always an athlete wannabe. I played basketball in high school, got out of that, started playing, all the intramural sports in town. Then I got too old for that, and I took up running. I ran some marathons and so forth. And one day I'd quit doing as much running just because I knew my body's, you can really entertain with your body. Something wasn't working right. And so I had a friend said, why don't you take up CrossFit? I had a little gym in my basement, so I'd go down every morning. I'd get up like 4:30, and I'd do like an hour workout weights and whatever. And so I came upstairs one Saturday morning after a workout, and I sat down on the floor because I was sweating. I was just kind of sitting on the hardwood floor. And the next thing I know, my wife's kind of patting me on the face and said, don't do that. That's not funny. And I'm like, what are you doing? I thought I dozed off. Or something. I wasn't sure. She said, well, you kind of listed over, started gurgling. I said, if I did that, we need to kind of maybe go to the hospital. Something doesn't sound right on that.
Right.
And that turned out to be the start of the disease. Mine started in my heart, created a heart block.
Okay.
They don't really know why it does that. It's nerve related. It's not really anything to do with the structure of the heart as much as it is nerve related.
Gotcha.
So they put in a pacemaker, but undiagnosed. Well, a year goes by, and they said, hey, less than a year. I mean, just a few months. I said, go ahead and start working out again. You're fine. If your heart pauses again, you'll get a little jolt, and everything's good. I didn't like that idea so much, but I eased back into it.
Sure.
And I never felt anything, so I thought it must be good. I go back a year later, and they go, your pacemaker hasn't worked. I'm like, well, I didn't know what they meant by not work. I thought, well, did you turn it on?
Yeah, it did not come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said, no, you've not needed it. So it was intermittent, whatever I had. And then later I ended up in the hospital with unable to digest foods. It was one little symptom. It was we caught ourselves treating symptoms. I had numbness in my fingers, and toes, and tips. My toes, and I had numbness and I had some back issues. I was unable to do a box jump all of a sudden. You know what a box jump is?
Yes.
You jump on.
Yep. Yep.
And so I came upstairs one day and I told my wife, I said, I can't do a box jump anymore. She goes, well, you are getting old. Yeah. Thank you, honey. I got one day older than yesterday, and I did it yesterday, right? And so finally, through some hospitalizations, and I was here in Springfield at Memorial, and the doctor hospitalist says, you've got to get to a specialty clinic. You've got so many symptoms, we can't chase it down. So the doctor told me, I had one of those diseases, and I didn't really know what any of them were. And I said, which one would be the best to have? He looked at me and goes, none of them.
Oh, yeah.
Don't want any of those.
And later, they through some genetic testing, they diagnosed me with the amyloidosis. But I told you I had 9 months to live. So
I was just going to say, and that was 2015?
That was 2015.
Yeah.
And this 8 years later. But anyway, a couple of months, I go back to work. After they kind of treat my symptoms, they get me where I can hold food again. And I mean, how do you tell somebody, oh, by the way, I'm dying in 9 months?
Right.
I mean, I'm kind of a joker anyway, and I'm afraid people's going to laugh at me, right?
Yeah. Right.
And so I didn't tell anyone for a while, and I told Gene and I told Hy, and I said, look, I'll go on disability, whatever you guys want me to do. That was my two bosses at the time. Mm-hmm. And Hy told me, you couldn't claw your way out of here. We're going to fight with this with you, and we'll help you. We'll help you get through it. Well, about 2 months later, they called me from the Mayo Clinic. That's where I got diagnosed. And they said, we've got a drug trial. And they said, would you like to try it? And I'm like, dude, I got nothing to lose.
Yeah,
you going to kill me?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm like, I'll take my odds here. So they said, well, there's only a 6 in 10 chance you'll get the real drug. There's a 40% chance you'll get a placebo.
Oh, gosh.
And so I got on it, and I was pretty sure I was on the placebo because I kept getting worse. But to tell you how good BUNN was, I would be so tired by the middle of the day that I would have to take a nap or go home or whatever. So they moved a couch in my office.
Oh, that's great.
And so I'd shut my door, and I would just go in there and lay down, take a short nap at lunch, and I couldn't eat. Yeah. So I would my wife would make me a bowl of oatmeal with a ton of sugar in it and everything that was bad for you, because that's all I could.
Right.
That's all I could get down.
Yeah.
And that would take me all day to eat that.
Oh gosh.
And but I'd take that nap, and finally one day I went home. I told my wife that I didn't take a nap today. She goes, "You didn't?" I said, "No." And I thought, that's just a fluke accident, right? I'll probably take a nap tomorrow. Well, and I did. The next day I took a nap. But day by day I quit taking the naps. I started getting more energy, and that's when I knew I was on the real drug. So about a year, well, I was on the drug trial blind study for about 15 months. And then later I found out I was on the real. So here I am 8 years later. And,
that's outstanding.
And
do you feel good? I mean,
I have no feeling from my shoulders down to my fingertips or my thighs down to my toes. So I'm really, those stairs you've got are great.
Yeah.
They're a good test.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah.
We'll be careful going down.
Oh, don't worry. Just get in front of me. I'll follow you.
There we go.
But no, I can still do all that, but I don't feel the sensation, so I'm kind of cautious.
Okay. Now, do you still take the same medication if that's not too personal of a question?
I started with a chemo-style treatment.
Okay.
I'd go and get an infusion at Mayo Clinic every 21 days. I did that for 5 years, 21 days.
Right.
And then finally they came out with a new version of it, and I just take an injection in my arm every 3 months.
Gotcha.
And that's awesome.
I noticed in your bio it says it's your superpower.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that. Yeah. Also dubbed as your HATTR. is also dubbed as your superpower. I thought that was interesting.
Well, I had, like I say, I speak to a lot of groups, and so I was going to speak to a group, and I usually have to explain to them, I said, I have this, so they know what my capabilities are, because I look at the stage when I'm going to get on the stage, I'm thinking, how am I getting up there? Right? If they don't have a banister, I'm like, I've got to. So I tell them, I said, look, just so you know, I know I look okay, well, as much as I can. God gave me, and, but I have a little bit of issue sometimes to get it, and so I'll tell them the story, and so one of the guys told me, he said, "That's not a handicap. That's like your superpower."
I love it,
and I love that perspective that he had, and it kind of stuck.
Yeah,
and people started using that, and because it does. I mean, we all have something, right?
Right.
Let's face it. Once you live very long, you're going to have some. Anomaly that's going to happen in your life. It may be something unseen. Mine is.
Right.
Or it may be a personal issue, but we all are imperfect, and we all have issues. And
I like that
so
perspective.
I kind of wear mine right here sometimes.
Right.
I get it. I like that.
Well, I love your last chapter in the book. The perspective
Yes.
that you take is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's. I got to tell you, it took me a while to get there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I have a son with Down syndrome, so I felt like we'd had a lot of challenges in our life already.
Had more than your share already.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm thinking, hey God, when you're passing out things, was I standing behind the door? I mean, what happened here? So I was a little bitter at times, and I finally said to myself, do I want to be remembered as the guy that's bitter, no matter what happens, or do I want to be remembered as the guy that I took a few things on the chin, but I kept smiling and kept on going. And I will tell you, life's a lot sweeter if you just run with it.
Amen.
And I still have bad days. I have days that all of a sudden something, the digestion stops working again. I can't eat for 2 days maybe or something like that. And but I found that to be a good way. And it's allowed me to also to help other people going through those challenges in life, whatever they are. I mean, I've talked to several other people with amyloidosis that have called me. So, hey, can we talk to you? And I like being around guys like yourself. I mean, we've laughed pretty hard here before. Luckily, that wasn't recorded, right?
No, it wasn't. You never know. Some of the best discussions have been before we turn the cameras on.
Yeah, it is always true.
It would be limited audience that we could send it to, though.
Well, I have to say that just the reading of the book and the stories you tell and the perspective, and then especially your closing chapter, has to be infectious for people.
Yes.
Because I know when I read it, and I've read through it a few times, I'm like, that's what I hope I could be that person.
Yeah.
And you can.
Yeah. But I think you hit the nail on the head earlier about perspective, and it's a choice every day, right?
It is.
Yep.
Right?
It's a choice.
We were doing a leadership book back, I don't know, it's been a year or so ago with our leaders and emerging leaders, and one of the chapters on attitude, and that attitude really is a choice. We can all have something to make us choose the other direction, but we can also choose to be, hey, I'm going to be positive. One thing I can control today is my attitude.
Right. Yeah. Well, a lot of people, and I did this too, I looked at all the things it took from me.
Yeah.
And that's where I focused on.
Yeah.
And I use the term of prism in the book. And, and I ran into that analogy one day, and I'm like, that's what I have to do. I have to turn that prism. Yeah, the light changed. It's coming from a different angle, and I'm having to make some adjustments. But you can turn that prism and eventually get that beautiful light. And of course, the story I get from students a lot of times, I tell that, because there's always one wisecrack guy in the audience. So what do you do when it's dark, boss?
Turn it some more, right?
I was like, wait.
That's right.
Wait for the lights to come back on.
Keep moving forward.
That's really it. It's perspective.
It is. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So back to when you first started writing the book, and you got 6 chapters written. How long did it take you to finish the book?
Then the good Lord sent us 2020. So 2020, when we locked down, we locked down at BUNN for a while as well. And so you couldn't get out. The restaurants were closed, or if they were, you ate outside or whatever. So our social life with the pot at the Watson house, so we didn't have much to do. And So I started every weekend. I have a home office, and I would just go in the home office and an office in my home, rather.
Sure.
And so I'd go in that office, and I'd start writing. And some days I'd come out, and my wife would say, "How'd it go?" And I'd just hold up a big zero. I got nothing. And I thought those were failure days. I really did, but really they weren't.
Yeah.
They were really days I knew what I wasn't going to do, right? It narrowed things down.
Yeah.
And so I actually took a couple of online classes.
I was going to ask you.
That taught me how to write and organize a little bit.
Yeah.
One of them was took my money and it was worthless. I learned a little from that one too. And the other
never
one was
done that. Have we?
and the other was pretty good. And so I'd go in and I'd just start. I wrote all of 2020. And the funniest thing about that, I'm glad I didn't know what was involved in writing a book. I finished December the 29th of 2020.
Okay.
And I'm thinking,
Done.
done. And so my wife says, well, now we got to send it off. And I'm like, send it off? I thought we were just going to have like PDF copies made, and, for me to give out or whatever.
Right.
Oh, she says, it's really good. I think we should send it off. And I go, you can send it off, but I'm DON.
I'm done.
I'm done. And she sent it off to a few places, and that's the whole story in itself. And this lady took it on, but and so in 2021, I literally edited the book for 8 months, and I thought I was done. So an editor does all the. This lady she edits for John Maxwell, so she's a well-known editor.
Yeah,
and it was just incredible, the work that I tell people, if it's a good book, I'm going to have to give
Her
Christina Boyce the big platitudes for that. And then W. Brand Publishing, my publisher, they took some idiot and pushed it across the line.
I wondered how that all came together. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So 2015 you started it, or 2014?
2014.
About 5 years.
And then let it kind of go on hold. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is that me
I
beeping?
think that might be. That's okay.
Or is that me? You know what that is?
Our podcast.
The one I was listening to.
I love it. I love it. That's so good.
And it wasn't.
We're not editing that out.
No,
We're keeping it in.
Hey, you know what?
That's real.
Here's amazing what Siri can do, right?
You were listening to our podcast before you got here.
The one I was listening to was the latest one you put out.
Yeah, with Regan Deering.
Regan
Deering, yeah.
And I don't know her, but she's quite good. And that I thought it was a good podcast. So.
Yeah, good. Well, this has been great. Thanks for sharing this with us. Where can people find your book who would like to get a copy? And I would recommend getting one for whoever's listening.
If you're here local, I believe they still have them at BUNN Gourmet. Okay. You can get one out there. Most of those are signed. I haven't, maybe not have signed all of them. I may go by there and look at that. But the easy way that everybody does, Amazon.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
They're on that. And they can sell them cheaper than I can. I don't know how they do it.
Right.
But Amazon or Barnes and Noble online. But it's an online book only. First time publishers don't get shelf space. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, that's new.
But it was funny whenever I first started with Amazon. They said, "How many do you think you'll sell?" And I'm like, 2.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to tell them. Right.
How do you know?
And so we ran out the first day, which was kind of cool.
Right?
Oh, that's awesome.
So it sold out the first day, and then
which was how many? If I can ask.
They wouldn't tell me.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because I didn't give them a print quantity, so probably 2. And no, it was some number. Then it took like 5 weeks because there were all the supply chain shortages and everything we've all lived through, and probably couldn't find a printer to print it. I don't know, but so it's Amazon's the easiest place, and then if you're here local, drop by BUNN Gourmet, you get a signed copy.
Gotcha. Well, it sure is good. So sometimes I'll ask folks this question when we get ready to wrap it up. If you could look back at yourself 30 years ago and tell yourself 30 years ago, here's what you need to know that you've learned over the last 30 years that would make your journey that much more effective and impactful, what might it be?
I think the number one thing is live in the moment and enjoy the ride. Even no matter what happens. Some of my And I talk about that in the book. Some
Yeah.
of my most challenging times are now my most fondest memories.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
How that works? The most challenging times are my fondest memories because I overcame. It's really in the battles and the overcoming is where we find the joy. It's
Amen.
not when everything
with
goes
you.
right. You won't remember today if it all goes right. You got to flood a few basements
That's
first,
right.
right?
And it makes for good storytelling.
It
You know what I
does.
mean? I mean,
Yeah.
So just live the moment and enjoy the ride. Find joy in that ride.
Yeah. Cool.
That's
well
great.
said.
Yeah.
Very wise.
Thank
Well,
you.
appreciate your time. Thanks for being
Thank
on
you.
with us.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
guys.
Mark, and
Yeah,
good
it
luck.
was a blast.
Yeah. Thanks
Cool
so
stuff.
much.
Yep. Thank you.
Appreciate it.